I was sitting in my car in the hospital parking lot, eating a gas station turkey sandwich that tasted like the inside of a tennis shoe, when my oncologist called and told me I was clear. 6 months of clean scans, she said. You can go home and rest, Elena. I wiped mayonnaise off my thumb and told her I was thrilled. I wasn't. I was tired in a way that made me question whether thrilling was still an emotion I had access to. I stuffed the sandwich wrapper in the glove box next to 3 parking stubs and Peter's old pair of sunglasses and started the car. The radio was on a station I didn't recognize. I turned it off. I drove home through the wrong streets just to see the water tower and the hardware store that still had the same sign since I was 14. When I pulled into the driveway, Susan's white BMW was parked crookedly in front of the garage. I could hear laughter from the backyard. Someone said my name. I opened the gate. The gate stuck on the latch like it always did, and I had to shoulder it open. The wood was damp from a sprinkler I hadn't seen running. My left foot landed in mud, and I looked down at my sneaker and thought about the gas station sandwich and the glove box and the way my oncologist said clear like it was a word that still meant something. Then I looked up. 50 people. Maybe more. Folding chairs on the lawn. A rented tent with white fabric flapping at the corners. A table with a punch bowl and paper cups and a stack of folded napkins that had little purple ribbons printed on them. Purple was the color. The ovarian cancer color. I had never once owned anything purple. Susan was standing at the front of the crowd near the rose bushes Peter had planted the summer before I got sick. She had a microphone. A real microphone. It was connected to a small speaker on the ground beside her feet. She was laughing. Her hair was blown out and she was wearing a white dress, and I could see her lipstick from 20 feet away because it was the kind of red that photographs well. She was saying something about me. She was making people laugh. My sister was making people laugh at my funeral. I remember when Elena was 12, Susan was saying, her voice bouncing off the side of the house, and she told my mother she wanted to be an architect. And my mother said, "Don't you think you should marry one instead?" And Elena just stood there. Just stood there in the kitchen with her orange juice, and she said, "No." That's it. She said no. She was 12. My mother still tells that story at parties, and Elena still has no idea how funny it is. The crowd laughed. I knew some of them. Our mother was in the front row, sitting on a folding chair with her hands on her knees. She had a cup of punch in one hand and her phone in the other, and she was recording. My daughters were not there. I did not know if that was good or bad. Susan was still talking. And now Elena is a survivor. A survivor. And I thought, what better way to celebrate that than to give her the funeral she didn't get to have when she was actually dying, because that's what this is, right? We're not mourning her. We're celebrating that she's still here. And she doesn't even know we're doing it. She's at an appointment. She's going to come home and find this. She's going to cry. She's the best crier in this family, I promise you. She cries at commercials. She cries at her own birthday candles. She's going to cry, and it's going to be beautiful. I stepped forward. My sneaker made a sucking sound in the mud. A man in a polo shirt turned and saw me, and his face went through something that looked like a small electrical malfunction. He tapped the woman next to him. The woman tapped someone else. The ripple moved toward the front of the crowd like wind on water. Susan didn't see it. She was too busy being watched. She held up the microphone and looked out over the chairs and said, "So let's give it up for Elena. Let's give it up for the woman who taught me that if you can't laugh at death, you're not really living. And also, can we just acknowledge, she has never once been on time to anything in her entire life." I told her the appointment was at 10. It's 11:15. She is probably still putting on her mascara. The crowd laughed. I pulled the envelope out of my coat pocket. I had printed it at the public library the day before, after Susan texted me a photo of the donation page and accidentally left the password visible in the screenshot. The password was her cat's name. The cat had died in 2019. Susan had not changed her password in 6 years. I had opened the page, scrolled through the donations, matched them against my credit card statement, and found the difference. $5,732. That was what Susan had kept. That was what she thought I would not notice, because I had better things to worry about. I reached the edge of the crowd. Someone gasped. A woman in a yellow jacket said my name. The sound traveled to the front and Susan stopped talking and turned and I saw her face. She opened her mouth. She smiled. It was a smile that was already preparing to be a joke. I know my sister's face better than I know my own. I know the shape her mouth makes when she is about to tell a story, and that shape was exactly what was happening. Elena, she said into the microphone. You're here. You made it. Get over here, the guest of honor. I walked to the front of the lawn. I stepped on a napkin and it stuck to my sneaker. I shook it off. I did not look at the crowd. I looked at Susan's lipstick and the microphone and the table of punch that she had bought with the money I earned designing a building that would now have someone else's name on the plaque. I held out the envelope. She took it. She opened it. She read it. Her face did not do the thing I expected. It didn't go white. It didn't go red. It went still. That was worse. The crowd was quiet now. The microphone was still in Susan's hand and the speaker was still humming and the whole lawn was holding its breath. I reached over and took the microphone from her. She let me. She didn't even close her fingers around it. She was looking at the paper like it had been written in a language she didn't speak. I turned to the crowd. I had not planned to speak. I had planned to hand her the envelope and walk back out the gate. But I was holding the microphone and 50 people were looking at me and my mother was recording and I could see Peter's face in the second row. He looked like someone had just told him his car was being towed. I could not figure out why his face was doing that. I figured it out later. Hello, I said into the microphone. My voice came out flat and thin. It was the voice I used when I spoke to nurses. I'm Elena. I'm alive. I don't know what my sister told you I needed. But I don't need a funeral. I need my money back. And I have a paper that says exactly how much of it she kept. The crowd went so quiet I could hear the sprinkler on the neighbor's lawn. Then someone started clapping. It was a woman in the back. I did not see her face. She clapped slowly, and then other people joined in, and then it was a wave, a real wave, like the one I had watched move toward the front of the crowd when they saw me coming. Only this wave was moving backward. It was applause and it was for me, and it was the most terrible sound I had ever heard because it meant they had expected this. They had known she was going to do something wrong. They had all known and they had come anyway. Susan did not clap. She was still holding the envelope. Her lips were moving, but no sound was coming out. I put the microphone on the table next to the punch and I turned and I walked back through the crowd and out the gate. I did not run. My sneaker made a sound on the driveway and then I was in my car with the door shut and I could still hear the applause through the glass. I knew my sister had done something with my name. I just didn't know how much she'd charged for it. I drove to the grocery store parking lot and sat there for 43 minutes. I know the time because I counted the songs on the radio until the station started playing commercials. I counted 6 songs. The 7th was an ad for a mattress store and I turned the car off. The silence was louder than the applause. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. Susan's name. I let it ring. She called twice more. Then my mother called. I let that one ring too. Then Peter. I picked that one up. Where are you? He said. His voice was calm. That was the thing about Peter. He always sounded calm. It used to make me feel safe. Now it made me feel like I was the only person in the room who didn't know what was about to happen. Parking lot, I said. Elena, come home. Susan is hysterical. She's saying you humiliated her. I gave her an itemized bill for $5,732 that she stole from a donation page she set up in my name. If that's humiliation, she earned it. He was quiet for a second. It was a misunderstanding. She thought you'd be happy. She thought it was a nice thing to do. She wanted to surprise you. Susan set up a donation page for my medical expenses, accepted payments through Venmo and PayPal and cash, and spent the money on a caterer and a tent and a microphone she rented from a party supply store. She also charged my credit card for the napkins. The napkins with the purple ribbons. Those came out of my personal account. Elena, tell her the money is in my PayPal account by tomorrow morning or I file a police report. It's not theft if she returns it before I report it. That's how that works. I looked it up. I hung up. I sat in the parking lot for another 10 minutes. I watched a woman push a shopping cart past my windshield. She had a toddler in the cart, and the toddler was eating a cracker, and the cracker was getting on everything. I thought about what it felt like to have a body that worked the way it was supposed to. I thought about what it felt like to not have to think about your own cells. Then I drove home. The crowd was gone. The tent was still up, but the folding chairs were stacked against the garage door. The table was still there, but the punch bowl was empty and the napkins were scattered on the grass like confetti. Susan's BMW was gone. Peter's gray sedan was in the driveway. I parked next to it and walked through the side door into the kitchen. Peter was at the island with a glass of whiskey. He didn't drink whiskey. He bought it for guests and it sat in the cabinet for years. He was drinking it straight, and he had not changed out of the shirt he wore to the funeral. It was a blue button-down I had given him for our 20th anniversary. The sleeves were rolled up to his elbows, and he had his forehead in one hand. You didn't have to do that, he said. I opened the refrigerator and took out the leftover pasta from 2 nights ago. I had made it myself. I was still cooking for myself. I was still doing everything for myself. She stole from me, I said. She used my illness as a fundraising platform for her own attention. She gave a speech about how I cry at birthday candles. She charged people money to sit in my backyard and laugh at my expense. What part of that was I supposed to thank her for? He didn't answer. He swirled the whiskey. The ice clinked. I put the pasta in the microwave and pressed the button and stood there watching the numbers count down. I told her to transfer the money by morning, I said. If she doesn't, I'm filing a report. Don't do that, he said. She's your sister. She was my sister when she did it. She's my sister now. That's not an argument for forgiveness, Peter. That's an argument for why it hurts. He stood up. He walked around the island, and I could smell the whiskey on him. He was not a drunk. He was a man who drank whiskey because he couldn't think of what else to do with his hands. He put his hands on my shoulders and I let him because I didn't want him to ask why I didn't want him to touch me. I'm sorry, he said. I should have told her not to do it. I didn't know what she was planning. She said she was throwing a little party. She said you'd be touched. I looked at him. He had honest eyes. They had always been honest. That was the thing that made it so impossible. I had spent 22 years believing those eyes. I had spent 22 years looking at them and seeing a man who would never hurt me. And I still saw that man. I saw that man, and I also saw the phone records I had copied the night before. I'm going to bed, I said. I left the pasta in the microwave. I walked upstairs and shut the bedroom door and locked it. I had never locked the bedroom door. I got my laptop from the nightstand and opened the folder I had named taxes. Inside that folder were screenshots. Credit card statements. A photo of Peter's phone screen from 3 weeks ago when he left it on the kitchen counter, and I saw a text notification from a number I didn't recognize that said, "Can't wait for Tuesday." A PDF copy of the PayPal transfer Susan had made to Peter's account. Not all of the money. $1,000. She had given him $1,000. He had not mentioned it. I had not confronted him about that either. I was waiting. I didn't know what I was waiting for. But I was waiting. The microwave beeped downstairs. I closed my laptop. I lay back on the pillows and stared at the ceiling. The ceiling had a crack in it that looked like a map of a river I had never visited. He came upstairs 20 minutes later. I could hear him in the hallway. He tried the door. It didn't open. He knocked. Elena, I'm sleeping. It's 6 o'clock. Good night, I said. He was quiet. Then he said, I'm sorry she did that. I know she doesn't mean harm. She just doesn't think. You know how she is. I did know how she was. That was the problem. I had known how she was my whole life. I had been explaining her behavior to other people my whole life. She is just like that. She doesn't think. She means well. She loves you in her own way. I had been saying those things so long they had worn a path in my mouth. I didn't say anything. He waited. Then his footsteps went back down the hall. I heard him go into the guest room. I heard the door close. I got up and opened the bedroom door. The hallway was dark. I walked down the stairs in my bare feet. I pulled the pasta out of the microwave. It was cold again. I ate it standing up over the sink. I looked out the window at the backyard. The tent was still there. The table was still there. The napkins were blowing across the lawn. They looked like little purple ghosts. The next morning I woke up at 6 and checked my PayPal. The balance had increased by $5,732. Susan had sent it with a note. Here's your money. Happy now, I didn't respond. I transferred it to my checking account. Then I sat on the edge of the bed and opened the phone records again. I had saved them as screenshots in the tax folder. I had been doing that for 3 weeks, ever since the Tuesday I saw the text on Peter's phone. It had taken me that long to find the pattern. Every Tuesday and Thursday, Peter left the house at 7 in the evening. He said he was going to a men's group at the church. He had been going to that men's group for 8 months. I had never questioned it. I had never questioned a single thing Peter had ever told me. The number in the screenshots belonged to a woman named Claire. I knew this because I had found her in Peter's contacts under the name C. Allen. I had looked her up on the clinic website. She was the nurse practitioner in my oncologist's office. She was the woman who had taken my blood pressure before every appointment. She was the woman who had looked at my charts and nodded and said, "Everything looks good, Elena." She was the woman who had been sleeping with my husband while I was too sick to wonder why he wasn't sleeping in our bed. I had not confronted him. I had not confronted her. I had spent 3 weeks watching them. I had watched Peter kiss my forehead and leave the house and drive to an apartment on the other side of town. I had watched his location on the family phone plan. I had watched him come home and lie to me. I had watched Claire's face at my appointments. I had watched her hands on my chart. I had watched her talk to my doctor and knew that she was talking to my husband about the same things. I put the laptop down. I went to the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. I looked like a woman who had been through cancer. I looked like a woman who had been through 10 months of chemo and 3 surgeries and a remissions announcement that felt like a technicality. I did not look like a woman who had been sleeping with her husband's nurse practitioner. I did not look like a woman who had been keeping secrets. But I was. I had been keeping secrets for 3 weeks. I had been watching Peter and Claire and not saying a word. I had been documenting. I had been counting. I had been waiting. I didn't know what I was waiting for. But I knew I would know it when I saw it. Susan called at 8. I answered because I wanted to hear her voice. You got the money, she said. I got the money. Are you going to say thank you? I laughed. It came out of me before I could stop it. I laughed so hard, I had to sit down on the bathroom floor. Susan didn't say anything. She waited. She was good at waiting. Thank you, I said, when I could talk. Thank you for returning the money you stole from me. That was very generous of you. It wasn't theft, Elena. It was an event. I paid for the tent. I paid for the caterer. I paid for the microphone. I had to cover costs. You paid for all of those things with my credit card. I have the statement. I printed it. I handed it to you in front of 50 people. I have witnesses. She was quiet. Then she said, "You made me look like a monster." "No," I said. "You made yourself look like a monster. I just gave you the receipt." She hung up. I sat on the bathroom floor for another minute. Then I got up and went to the kitchen and made coffee. Peter was at the table in his bathrobe. He looked like he hadn't slept. He looked like he had aged 10 years in one night. "The money is back," I said. "Your sister can stop sending me notes about it." I transferred it to my checking account. "It's done. She's not your sister. She's my sister." I didn't say that. I poured the coffee and sat across from him. He was reading something on his phone. He turned the screen away when I sat down. I had never noticed him doing that before. I had never noticed anything. That was the part one was supposed to be angry about. I was angry. But I was also tired. And I was also watching. "What's on your phone?" I asked. "Work email." "Claims." "Boring." "Show me." He looked up. What I said, "Show me. I want to see the claims." He laughed. It was a bad laugh. It was the laugh of a man who was thinking about something else. "Elena, I'm not going to show you my work emails. You don't want to read about insurance claims." "You're right," I said. "I don't." I drank my coffee. He went back to his phone. He was careful not to turn it toward me. He was careful about a lot of things. Peter came back to the bedroom and kissed me on the forehead like I was a sick dog he was too kind to put down. I spent the rest of that week doing what I did best. I watched. Peter went to work at 8:30 every morning. He came home at 6. On Tuesday, he left at 7:15 for his men's group. He kissed me on the cheek and told me not to wait up. I watched his location on the phone plan. The blue dot moved across town to an address I had already memorized. It stayed there for 2 hours. It came back at 10. He walked through the door with a smile that made me want to break something. On Thursday, he did it again. I watched the blue dot. I watched Claire's car in the parking lot. I had driven past the apartment building twice. It was a beige building with a courtyard and a door that didn't lock properly. I had seen Claire's car. It was a silver Honda with a university parking sticker. I had seen Peter's car next to it. I had not stopped. I had kept driving. Susan was texting me every day. She was apologizing and she was not apologizing. Her texts came in the same pattern she had been using since we were children. First the accusation, then the explanation, then the plea, then the silence. On Friday, she sent a voice message that lasted 4 minutes. I listened to it in the car. I know you're angry, Elena. I know I messed up. I should have told you. I should have asked. But you have to understand. I don't have what you have. I don't have Peter. I don't have a house. I don't have a career waiting for me. I have nothing. And I thought if I could just do something for you, something big, something that people would see, maybe they would see me too. You're the one everyone feels sorry for. You're the one everyone loves. You're the sick one. I'm the nothing one. I'm the one who never got married and never had kids and still lives in the same apartment she moved into after college. Do you know what that feels like? Do you know what it feels like to be the sister of the woman everyone cries about? I did not answer. I turned off the car and walked into the grocery store and bought a bag of oranges. I peeled one in the parking lot. It tasted like nothing. On Saturday morning, I opened the tax folder and looked at the screenshots again. I counted the calls. There were 47 calls between Peter and Claire in the last 3 weeks. 47 times he had called her or she had called him. 47 conversations I was not part of. I scrolled through the credit card statements. There were charges at a restaurant near her apartment. There were charges at a hotel I did not recognize. There was a purchase at a pharmacy on the other side of town. I closed the laptop. I went downstairs. Peter was in the living room reading a book. He looked up and smiled. It was the same smile he had been giving me for 22 years. It was the same smile I had fallen in love with. It was the same smile that had made me believe I was safe. Good morning, he said. Good morning. Any plans for the day? I'm going to see my therapist. It was a lie. I had not seen my therapist in 4 months. My therapist was a woman named Margaret who I had stopped calling because she asked too many questions about how I was really doing. But Peter didn't know that. Peter had never checked. Good, he said. That's good. You need to talk to someone. After what Susan did. I need to talk to someone, I said. I need to talk about the funeral and the money and my sister and how it felt to stand there while she told everyone I cry at birthday candles. He nodded. He was already looking back at his book. I could have told him anything. I could have told him that I knew. I could have told him about the blue dot. I could have told him about Claire's car. I could have told him that I had been watching him for 3 weeks and I was tired of watching. I didn't tell him. I put my coat on and I left the house. I drove across town to the public library. It was a building I had helped design 15 years ago. I had been a junior architect then. I had drawn the windows. I had designed the reading room. I had put the children's area in the back so the noise wouldn't disturb the adults. It was a good building. I walked in and sat down at a computer and logged into my email. The email from my firm was still there. It had been sitting in my inbox for 6 weeks. I had not opened it because I knew what it said. I opened it now. Dear Elena, it read. We are writing to inform you that we have made the difficult decision to restructure our architecture team. We are grateful for your contributions and wish you the best in your health journey. Your position has been filled. Please do not hesitate to contact HR regarding any questions about your benefits. I read it twice. Then I closed it. I had not been surprised. I had been waiting for it. I had been waiting for everything. I got up from the computer. I walked through the children's section and out the back door. I sat on a bench by the parking lot. I thought about the building. I had drawn those windows. I had chosen the brick. I had fought the city council for 3 months to get the permit for the courtyard. And now someone else's name was on the plaque and someone else was designing buildings, and I was sitting on a bench in a parking lot with a bag of oranges in my purse. I drove to Claire's apartment. It was not a plan. It was something that happened while I was driving. One moment I was at the library, and the next moment I was on the street with the beige buildings and the broken courtyard gate and the silver Honda in the parking spot. I parked across the street. I sat in the car for a long time. I could see her door. It was number 214. It had a wreath on it. A real wreath with fake berries and a little bow. Claire had a wreath on her door. Claire had a life. Claire had my husband and a wreath. I got out of the car. I crossed the street. I walked up to door 214 and I knocked. She opened it. She was wearing jeans and a sweater. Her hair was down. She looked different out of her white coat. She looked younger. She looked like someone who had never been sick a day in her life. She looked like someone who had never had a blood draw or a port or a chemotherapy nurse who called her sweetie. She recognized me. Her face did something I recognized. It went white. The same white that Susan's face had gone when I handed her the envelope. The same white that Peter's face had gone when I asked to see his phone. It was the white of someone who had just been caught. Elena, she said. Claire. She didn't invite me in. I didn't expect her to. She stood in the doorway with her hand on the frame, and she didn't say anything. I know about you and Peter, I said. I know you've been seeing him for 8 months. I know he comes here on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I know you're the nurse practitioner at my oncologist's office. I know you've been reading my charts and calling him and telling him about my appointments. She opened her mouth. She closed it. She tried again. Elena, I think we should talk. Can I ask you something? She nodded. Do you know my name? She blinked. What am I name? Do you know my full name without looking at my chart? She was quiet. I waited. She looked at me, and I could see her trying to find the answer. I watched her search her memory. She couldn't find it. She couldn't find it because I was not a person to her. I was a chart. I was a case. I was a woman who had cancer and a husband and a wreath on a door that wasn't hers. She closed the door so slowly I knew she was afraid I'd push it open again. I didn't push it open. I stood there for a moment. Then I walked back to my car and I drove home. I called the state nursing board the next morning. I didn't know I was going to do it. But I had my laptop open and I had the address and I had Claire's full name from the clinic website and I had the timeline. I had 8 months of medical information that had been shared with my husband without my consent. I had screenshots. I had proof. I filed a formal complaint. It took 45 minutes. I read the words out loud to the woman on the phone and she took notes and she said she would pass it to the investigative team. I hung up. I sat in the kitchen. Peter was at the table. He was eating breakfast. He had no idea what I had just done. Who was that? He asked. The doctor's office, I said. They were following up on a prescription. He nodded. He ate his toast. He was so calm. He was so calm. I watched him finish his breakfast. I watched him rinse his plate. I watched him kiss me on the forehead and tell me he'd be home at 6. I watched him leave the house. I watched his car back out of the driveway. I watched the blue dot on my phone move across town to the office where Claire worked. I opened the tax folder. I had a list of everything. Every phone call. Every text. Every charge. Every Tuesday and Thursday. I had 8 months of evidence, and I had no idea what I was going to do with any of it. I picked up my phone and called Margaret, my therapist. She answered on the second ring. Elena, she said. It's been a while. I need to talk to you, I said. I think I need to tell someone. Tell someone what? I opened my mouth and the words came out. I told her about the donation page and the funeral and the microphone and the paper cup and the purple napkins. I told her about Susan and the money and the applause. I told her about the blue dot. I told her about Claire's door and the wreath and her white face. I told her about the filing with the nursing board. I told her about the firm and the email and the building I had designed. Margaret didn't say anything for a long time. Then she said, "Are you okay?" "I don't know," I said. "I think I'm doing things and I don't know why I'm doing them and I think I should feel something. I think I should feel angry. I think I should feel sad. I think I should feel something other than this. This waiting. Waiting for what I don't know." She was quiet. I could hear her breathing. I could hear the clock on her wall. I had heard that clock for 2 years. I knew its rhythm. Elena, she said. I think you know what you're waiting for. I think you know exactly what you're waiting for. And I think you're waiting because you want to be sure. But you're already sure. You've been sure for 3 weeks. You just haven't said it out loud. I didn't answer. I couldn't answer. Say it, she said. Say it out loud. I closed my eyes. I opened them. He's been having an affair for 8 months. With my nurse practitioner. He's been leaving the house twice a week and coming back and kissing me on the forehead and pretending I'm his wife. He thinks I don't know. But I know. I've known for 3 weeks. And I haven't said anything because I don't know what happens after I do. After you do, you make a choice, she said. That's the only thing that happens. You make a choice. And you live with it. That's what the rest of us do. She closed the door so slowly I knew she was afraid I'd push it open again. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling crack and listened to Peter breathe in the guest room. He had stopped trying to come back to our bed. He didn't ask why. He just wanted the guest room every night and closed the door, and I pretended I didn't notice. We had become people who pretended not to notice things. I got up at 3 in the morning. I went to the kitchen and made tea. I sat at the table with my hands around the mug, and I thought about Margaret's question. What happens after you make a choice? I didn't know. I had spent 2 years being sick and being treated and being handled and being forgiven and being excused and being the person everyone worried about. I had spent 2 years being the person things happened to. I had not made a single choice that mattered. At 5 I called a lawyer. It was not a name I knew. It was a name I found on a website for women's legal services. The website had a pink logo and a tagline about empowerment, and I had almost closed the tab twice. But I didn't close it. I filled out the contact form. I put in my name and my phone number and the words financial separation and divorce. I hit send. A woman called me at 9. Her name was Diana. She had a voice that sounded like it had been sanded down by years of other people's husbands. She asked me questions. I answered them. She asked me what evidence I had. I told her about the tax folder. I told her about the screenshots and the credit card statements and the phone records and the location data. She asked me how long I had been collecting it. I told her 3 weeks. That's a very organized response, she said. You must be very angry. I don't think I'm angry, I said. I think I'm done. She told me to come to her office the next day. She told me to bring everything. She told me not to tell my husband. I agreed. On Monday morning, I told Peter I was going to the library. He didn't ask why. He was already on his phone, scrolling through something with his thumb. I left the house and drove across town to Diana's office. It was in a strip mall next to a nail salon. The sign on the door said Mitchell and Associates. I had not considered the name until I saw it. Mitchell. The same name I had taken from Peter 22 years ago. I walked in. Diana was a woman in her 50s with gray hair cut short and no makeup. She had a desk covered in papers and a coffee mug that said, "I'm not arguing, I'm explaining." She shook my hand. She did not smile. She had the face of someone who had seen too many women walk through her door with tired eyes and binders full of evidence. Show me what you have, she said. I opened my laptop. I showed her the screenshots. I showed her the phone records. I showed her the location data. I showed her the credit card statements with the restaurant charges and the hotel charges and the pharmacy charges. I showed her the PayPal transfer from Susan to Peter. I showed her the nursing board complaint I had already filed. She read everything. She didn't say anything. She just read. When she was done, she took off her glasses and rubbed her eyes and looked at me. Your husband is not good at hiding things, she said. That will be your advantage. I know. He has been using shared accounts for personal purchases. He has been transferring money into an account you don't have access to. He has been having an affair with someone who had access to your medical records. You have enough here to get a very favorable separation agreement. You have enough here to get a full financial audit. You have enough here to make him answer for every dollar he moved. How long does it take? Months? Maybe longer. If he fights it, he won't fight it. He's not a fighter. He's a man who avoids conflict. That's why he had an affair instead of leaving. He can't handle the conversation. He'll do whatever the lawyers tell him to do. She nodded. She wrote something on a piece of paper. She handed it to me. It was an estimate. Numbers. Fees. A timeline. I folded it and put it in my purse. Don't tell him, she said. Not yet. Let me file the paperwork first. Let me get the forensic accountant on it. Once the financial separation is filed, it's a legal process. You're protected. If you tell him before that, he might try to move more money. He might try to close accounts. He might do something stupid. Like what men in his position usually try to buy their way out. He'll offer you a lump sum. He'll offer you the house. He'll offer you anything to make it go away quietly. Don't take it. Not until we know what he's actually got. I nodded. I stood up. I shook her hand. I walked out of the office and got in my car and sat there for a long time. The strip mall had a nail salon and a dry cleaner and a donut shop. I watched a woman walk out of the nail salon with wet nails. She held her hands in front of her like she was carrying something fragile. I did that too once. I was careful with my hands. I was careful with everything. I drove home. Peter was not there. He was at work. I sat in the living room and looked at the house. I had spent 22 years in this house. I had raised children in this house. I had been sick in this house. I had almost died in this house. And now I was going to leave it. I was going to leave it and I was not going to look back. Susan called at 4. I answered because I was too tired to not answer. I need to talk to you, she said. About what happened? About the money. About all of it. I need you to understand. I understand. You stole from me. You set up a donation page in my name and you kept the money. You used my illness to get attention. You told everyone I cry at birthday candles. I understand everything. I don't need you to explain it. She was quiet. Then she said, Peter's been having an affair. I sat up. What he told me. He came over yesterday. He said you've been acting strange and he didn't know what to do. He told me everything. About Claire. About the apartment. About the 8 months. He said he's sorry. He said he wants to leave you but he doesn't know how. He said you're too sick to handle it. He said he's been trying to wait until you're better. I didn't say anything. I was still holding the phone. I was still in the living room. I was still in the house I had spent 22 years in. But everything was different. You knew, I said. Not the whole time. He told me 3 weeks ago. He came to me and he told me and he asked me not to say anything. He said he needed to figure out how to tell you. He said he didn't want to hurt you. He said he was afraid you'd fall apart. He told you 3 weeks ago. That's when I found out too. That's when I started watching him. That's when I started collecting evidence. And you knew. You knew and you didn't tell me. You knew and you threw me a funeral and you took my money and you let me stand there in front of 50 people and you let me look like a fool. I was trying to protect you. From what? From the truth, from the fact that my husband has been sleeping with a woman who took my blood pressure, from the fact that my sister is willing to steal from me and lie to me and pretend she's protecting me while she's covering for him. Elena, enough is enough. You don't get to do this. You don't get to pretend you're on my side. You're on his side. You've always been on his side. You've been on his side since we were children because he was the one who bought you presents, and he was the one who made you feel important, and I was the one who was too busy being sick to notice. She was crying. I could hear it in her voice. I didn't care. I didn't care about her tears. Tell me one thing, I said. Did he ask you to throw the funeral, or what? Did he ask you to throw the funeral? Did he tell you to do it? No. He didn't ask me to do anything. He just said he was worried about you. He said you seemed distant. He said he didn't know what to do. And I thought you needed to see that people cared about you. I thought you needed to see that people would come. You thought you'd make money off it. You thought you'd get attention. You thought you'd finally have a story to tell that would make people look at you the way they look at me. And you were willing to use my cancer and my sisterhood and my husband's affair to get it. I hung up. I didn't wait for her answer. I put the phone on the table and I sat there in the living room and I looked at the coffee table and the fireplace and the photos on the mantel. Peter and me on our wedding day. Peter and me holding our first daughter. Peter and me in front of the house the day we bought it. He had told Susan about the affair. He had told her before he told me. He had asked her to keep it a secret. And she had. I got up. I went to the kitchen. I opened the drawer where Peter kept his keys. I took his car key. I walked out to the garage and opened his car door and sat in the driver's seat. I looked in the glove box. There was a receipt from a restaurant I didn't recognize. There was a parking stub from Claire's apartment building. There was a pair of sunglasses I had never seen. I put them back. I closed the glove box. I sat there and breathed. Then I went back inside and called Diana. I need to accelerate the filing, I said. Why? Because he told my sister about the affair 3 weeks ago. He told her, and she didn't tell me. She covered for him. And now she knows I know. She knows. She's going to tell him. I need to file before that happens. I can file tomorrow, she said. But I need you to understand something. Once I file, it's public record. He'll be served. He'll know you're serious. There's no going back. I don't want to go back. I want to go forward. I want to go forward, and I don't want to see his face when he finds out. I want him to find out from a process server. I want him to find out in a room full of people. I want him to feel what I felt in that backyard. Elena, she said. That's not a very healthy way to approach this. I know, I said. I don't care. The man in the gray suit looked at me and said, your husband is not good at hiding things. That will be your advantage. Diana filed the paperwork on Tuesday morning. I knew she did because she sent me a text at 9:17. Filed. Service scheduled for Thursday. Don't be home. I read the text 3 times. I put the phone down. I picked it up again. I read it again. Then I went downstairs and made coffee. Peter was at the table. He had a bagel in one hand and his phone in the other. He was doing the thing where he scrolled and ate at the same time. He didn't look up when I walked in. He used to look up. He used to smile. Now he scrolled. I'm going to my sister's house for a few days, I said. She needs help with something. He looked up. Susan, yes. I thought you weren't speaking to her. We're speaking. She's my sister. She needs help. I'm going. He nodded. He looked relieved. I could see it in his shoulders. He was relieved that I was leaving. That was the part that made me want to laugh and scream at the same time. He was relieved. Take the car, he said. I'll take yours. You have the sedan. I know. I just think you should take the safer car. I didn't argue. I took the safe car. I packed a bag. I put the laptop in my purse. I left the house at 11. I drove to a hotel on the other side of town. It was a Holiday Inn. It had a pool and a breakfast bar and a sign that said, welcome, in 3 languages. I checked in under my name. I used my credit card. I did not care if he saw the charge. I was done caring. I sat on the bed and looked at the wall. The wall had a picture of a sailboat. I stared at the sailboat for a long time. I did not like sailboats. I did not like the ocean. I had been married to a man who loved sailing, and I had never once learned to sail. That was the kind of thing I had not noticed. That was the kind of thing I was noticing now. My phone buzzed. Susan. I didn't answer. She called twice more. I let them ring. Then Peter called. I picked that one up. Where are you? He said. I told you. I'm at Susan's. No, you're not. I called her. She said you're not there. She said you hung up on her and you haven't spoken to her in days. She said you're not answering her calls. She said she doesn't know where you are. I didn't say anything. Elena, where are you? I'm at a hotel. What? I'm at a hotel. I needed space. I needed to think. I need to be alone for a while. Think about what I opened my mouth to tell him. I was going to say it. I was going to say everything. But I didn't. I closed my mouth. I closed my eyes. I waited. Think about what he said again. Think about us, I said. Think about you. Think about what I want. Think about what I need. Think about things I haven't thought about in a long time. He was quiet. I could hear him breathing. I could hear him thinking. I could hear him trying to figure out what I knew. Elena, can I come see you? Can we talk? No. Why not? Because I'm not ready. I'll be back in a few days. I just need some time. He was quiet again. Then he said, okay. Okay, take your time. I love you. I hung up. I did not say it back. I stayed in the hotel for 2 days. I ordered room service. I watched television. I opened the tax folder and I read through everything again. I counted the calls again. I counted the charges again. I counted the dollars he had moved again. I made a list. I wrote it down on a piece of hotel stationery with a pen that had the Holiday Inn logo on it. I wrote down every number. I added them up. I added them again. I folded the paper and put it in my purse. On Thursday morning, I drove to Diana's office. The process server had already been dispatched. I sat in the waiting room and watched the clock. I had never been a person who watched clocks. I had become a person who watched clocks. Diana came out at 10. She handed me a cup of coffee. She sat down across from me. He's been served, she said. He was at his office. The server walked in during a meeting. He signed for it in front of his colleagues. I took the coffee. I didn't drink it. I held it. The warmth came through the cup and I held it. How did he look? Scared. The server said he looked scared. He said he didn't open it. He just signed and put it in his briefcase and went back to his meeting. He's probably opening it right now. He's probably calling you right now. I looked at my phone. It didn't ring. I waited. It didn't ring. He's not calling, I said. He will. He needs time to process. He's not going to call. He's going to get in his car and drive to Claire's apartment. He's going to tell her what happened. He's going to ask her what to do. He's going to spend the afternoon with her, and then he's going to call me tonight, and he's going to ask me to come home so we can talk. Are you going to go? Yes. I'm going to go home. And then I'm going to leave. I left Diana's office at 11. I drove back to the hotel. I sat on the bed and waited. Peter called at 6:30. I let it ring twice before I answered. Elena, he said. I got the papers. I know. What is this? What is this? You're filing for separation. You're taking half of everything. You're putting a forensic accountant on our accounts. What is going on? I know about Claire, I said. He was quiet. The line went so quiet I thought it had disconnected. I could hear him breathing. I could hear him trying to form words. I could hear him failing. How long have you known? He said. 3 weeks. I've known for 3 weeks. I've been watching you. I've been tracking your phone. I've been taking screenshots. I've been building a case. I've been waiting for the right time. He didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. The silence went on. Elena, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. It just happened. It wasn't planned. It was. Don't, I said. Don't do that. Don't give me a speech about how it just happened. It happened because you chose to do it. It happened because you went to Claire's apartment twice a week for 8 months and you lied to me every time you came home. It happened because you told my sister about it before you told me. It happened because you made 1,000 decisions and every single one of them was a choice. So don't tell me it just happened. I'm sorry, he said again. I don't want your sorry. I want the money you transferred. I want the accounts you opened without my name. I want the years I gave you. I want the time I spent being sick while you were spending your evenings with someone else. I want all of it back and I can't have it. So I'm taking what I can. Elena, I'm coming home tomorrow. I'm going to pack my things. I'm going to move out. And then I'm going to start the rest of my life. You can stay in the house. You can stay with Claire. You can stay with whoever you want. I don't care. I don't care about any of it. Can we talk? Can we sit down and talk? I closed my eyes. I opened them. Yes, I said. We can talk. But not tonight. Tomorrow. After I've packed. Okay, he said. Tomorrow. I hung up. I sat on the bed with the phone in my hands. I could have been angry. I should have been angry. But I wasn't. I was tired. I was just tired. The next morning I drove to the house. I parked in the driveway. I went inside. Peter was in the living room. He was sitting on the couch. He had not changed his clothes. He had not showered. He looked like he had not slept. He looked like he had spent the night in the same chair with the same whiskey on the same table. Elena, he said. He stood up. He held his hands out. He took a step toward me. I stepped back. Don't touch me. He stopped. He put his hands down. Can we just sit? Can we just sit and talk? Sit, I said. I'm not going to sit. But you can. Say what you need to say. He sat. He put his head in his hands. He looked at the floor. He looked at me. She's not the reason, he said. She's not the reason I'm leaving. She's not the reason I did what I did. I was already gone. I had already checked out. I had already stopped being your husband. I was just too much of a coward to say it. I didn't say anything. I stopped being your husband the day you got sick, he said. No, that's not right. I stopped being your husband before that. I stopped being your husband the day you started needing me. I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle the appointments and the treatments and the watching you get smaller and the waking up every day wondering if today was the day you were going to die. So I left. I didn't leave the house. I left in my head. I left in my heart. I left before I ever walked out the door. And Claire wasn't the reason. She was the excuse. She was the permission I gave myself to stop pretending. I looked at him. I looked at the man I had married. I looked at the man I had promised to love. I did not recognize him. I did not recognize him, and I did not want to. Is that supposed to make me feel better? I said. No. It's supposed to make you understand. I was weak. I was wrong. I did a terrible thing. But I didn't do it because I didn't love you. I did it because I didn't know how to love you the way you needed. I didn't know how to be the man you deserved. Peter, you had an affair with the woman who took my blood pressure. You slept with someone who was charting my cancer. You talked about me with her. You told her about my appointments. You told her about my treatments. You shared my illness with someone else and you made it part of your affair. Do you understand how wrong that is? He looked at me. I could see the answer on his face. He had not thought about it that way. He had not thought about it at all. You can't come back from that, I said. You can't apologize your way out of that. You can't fix that. You can't make that right. You can only live with it. Can you forgive me? No. Can you ever forgive me? No. Can we start over? Can we try? Can we? No, I said. We can't. There's nothing left to try. You don't get to be forgiven, Peter. You get to be forgotten. I'm going to forget you. I'm going to move on. I'm going to live my life without you in it. And you're going to live yours without me. That's the only thing you get to choose. You don't get to choose whether I forgive you. You don't get to choose whether I stay. You only get to choose whether you accept it. He didn't say anything. He didn't fight. He didn't argue. He just sat there and let it happen. I walked past him. I went upstairs. I packed my clothes. I packed my books. I packed the photos. I left the photo of our wedding on the mantel. I left the photo of the girls on the mantel. I left the key on the coffee table. I walked out the door. He had been served. He had signed for it in front of his colleagues. And then he drove to Claire's. I moved into a one-bedroom apartment on the other side of town. It had a balcony that faced a parking lot and a kitchen with counters that were too low and a bedroom that smelled like the previous tenant's cigarettes. I didn't care. I bought a mattress and a table and a chair. I hung my clothes in the closet. I put my laptop on the table. I sat on the floor and ate takeout from a place that delivered dumplings. I did not think about Peter. I did not think about Susan. I thought about the building I had designed and the windows I had drawn and the children's section with the noise in the back. I thought about going back to work. Diana called on Monday. The forensic accountant had finished the preliminary audit. Peter had moved $43,000 into a private account. He had opened a credit card in his name only. He had been paying for Claire's apartment for 6 months. He had been paying for her car. He had been paying for her health insurance. He had been paying for her life while I was paying for my own treatments. $43,000, I said. Plus the credit card debt he accrued on the joint account. That's another 12. We're going to argue that you shouldn't be responsible for any of that. He used the joint card for personal expenses. He didn't tell you. He didn't ask. That's marital waste. We can get it back. How long? Months. Maybe more. But the separation agreement is filed. He can't move any more money without a court order. He can't close any accounts. He can't sell any assets. He's frozen. You have time. You have room. You can breathe. I thanked her. I hung up. I sat on the floor of my apartment and breathed. The nursing board called the next day. A woman with a professional voice told me they had reviewed my complaint and were opening an investigation into Claire. They would be reaching out to the clinic for records. They would be interviewing staff. They would be in touch. Thank you, I said. May I ask, the woman said, are you planning to pursue a civil action as well? No, I said. I just want her to know that she can't do it again. I hung up. I thought about Claire's wreath. I thought about her white face. I did not feel sorry for her. I did not feel anything. Susan came to my apartment on Wednesday. I did not invite her. She found the address on Peter's phone while he was asleep. That's what she told me later. She showed up at my door with a grocery bag full of things I didn't need and a face full of words she had been practicing. I need to talk to you, she said. About what? About everything. About the money. About the affair. About Peter. About me. All of it. I let her in. She sat on the chair. I sat on the floor. She handed me the grocery bag. It had orange juice and crackers and a bag of frozen peas. I didn't ask about the peas. I put the bag on the counter. I'm sorry, she said. I should have told you. Peter told me 3 weeks ago, and I should have told you. I should have walked into your house and said your husband is cheating on you. I should have done that. I didn't do it. I didn't do it because I was afraid. I was afraid of what would happen. I was afraid you'd fall apart. I was afraid you'd blame me. I was afraid you'd hate me. And I was also afraid of losing him. I didn't say anything. He's been my friend, she said. He's been my friend for 22 years. He's the one who helped me when I lost my job. He's the one who paid my rent. He's the one who took my calls at 2 in the morning. He was there for me in a way you weren't. And I know that's not your fault. I know you were sick. I know you were dealing with your own stuff. But he was there. And when he came to me and told me about Claire, I couldn't choose. I couldn't choose between you. So I didn't choose anyone. You chose him, I said. You chose him when you kept his secret. You chose him when you let me walk into that funeral and make a fool of myself. You chose him when you covered for him. You chose him every single day for 3 weeks. I know. I know I did. And I'm sorry. I am so sorry. I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't know how to make it right. I thought if I just didn't say anything, maybe it would go away. Maybe you wouldn't find out. Maybe he would leave her and come back to you and we would all go back to normal. Normal, I said. You thought we could go back to normal? Yes. Susan, there is no normal. There hasn't been normal for a long time. There hasn't been normal since the day I got sick. There hasn't been normal since the day I started treatment. There hasn't been normal since the day I stopped being a wife and started being a patient. And I don't want to go back to that normal. I don't want to go back to any of it. She was crying. I watched her cry. I didn't reach out. I didn't touch her. I just watched. I love you, she said. I know I don't show it. I know I do things that make you feel like I don't. But I love you. You're my sister. You're the only sister I have. And I don't want to lose you. You don't get to lose me, I said. You don't get to have me either. I'm not your sister. Not right now. Maybe someday. But not now. She nodded. She wiped her face. She stood up. She walked to the door and she opened it, and she turned back. Are you going to be okay? She said. I don't know. But I'm going to be okay on my own. That's the difference. I'm going to be okay on my own. She left. I sat on the floor. The frozen peas were melting on the counter. I didn't move them. On Thursday, I went back to the public library. I found a quiet corner and I opened my laptop. I started writing emails. I wrote to the firm that had replaced me. I wrote to the partners I had worked with. I wrote to the project managers I had trained. I did not ask for my job back. I asked for references. I asked for connections. I asked for advice. I was not the same architect I had been. I was different. I was older. I was tired. But I still knew how to draw a window. I still knew how to make a building breathe. I got 3 replies by the end of the week. One from a partner who offered to meet for coffee. One from a project manager who said there was an opening at his new firm. One from a woman I had mentored who said she had started her own firm and needed someone with my experience. I read the emails 3 times. I did not cry. I did not smile. I felt something else. I felt the thing you feel when you realize you're not as broken as you thought. The meeting with the mediation was scheduled for Tuesday. Diana sent me the details. A conference room. A neutral location. Peter would be there with his lawyer. I would be there with Diana. We would sit across from each other, and we would talk about money and property and the end of 22 years. I did not sleep the night before. I lay on my mattress and stared at the ceiling. The ceiling had no crack. It had no map. It was just white paint. I stared at it for hours. On Tuesday morning, I put on a green dress. It was the same dress I had worn to the funeral. I didn't have anything else. I wore it anyway. I drove to the conference room. I walked in. Peter was already there. He looked older. He looked tired. He was wearing a suit I had never seen. He had his lawyer next to him, a man with a red face and a gold watch. Peter looked at me when I walked in. He didn't say anything. He just looked at me. His eyes were red. I sat down across from him. Diana sat next to me. She put a folder on the table. She opened it. The forensic accountant's report. The phone records. The credit card statements. The list of every dollar Peter had moved. She pushed it across the table. The red-faced man opened it. He read it. He showed it to Peter. Peter read it. He didn't say anything. He just read. 43,000, the red-faced man said. You're asking for 43,000. We're asking for 65. 43 transferred, 12 charged on the joint card for personal expenses. We're asking for the full amount. We're also asking for the house to be sold and the proceeds split. We're asking for Peter to cover Elena's legal fees. We're asking for a clean financial separation. Peter's lawyer didn't argue. He didn't fight. He just nodded. He looked at Peter. Peter nodded. It was over in 45 minutes. I walked out of the conference room. Peter followed me into the hallway. He caught my arm. I stopped. I looked down at his hand. He let go. Elena, he said. Can we really talk about everything? About what happened? About what I did? About what I'm sorry for? About what we were? I need to say it. I need you to hear it. I don't care if you forgive me. I just need you to hear it. I looked at him. I did not want to hear it. But I also did not want to walk away and wonder. Fine, I said. Fine. You want to talk? Let's talk. He didn't say my name when he walked out. He said you, like I was a stranger he'd been married to. We sat in a coffee shop near the conference room. It was the kind of place with mismatched chairs and a chalkboard menu and a barista who wore a beanie in February. I ordered black coffee. Peter ordered the same. We sat at a table by the window. The window faced the street, and I watched a woman walk a golden retriever past the glass. The dog stopped to sniff a fire hydrant, and the woman tugged the leash, and the dog did not move. I watched her try 3 times. You love dogs, Peter said. I used to. We sat in silence. The coffee came. I wrapped my hands around the cup. The warmth came through the ceramic. I looked at him. He looked like he was trying to find the first word of a speech he had been practicing for 24 hours. I don't know where to start, he said. Start at the beginning. The real beginning. Not the excuse. The beginning. He took a breath. He let it out. I started pulling away from you the year before you got sick. You don't remember that because you were tired. You were always tired. You were working too much and sleeping too little, and I was working too much and sleeping too little, and we were 2 people who passed each other in the kitchen in the morning and said, "How was your day?" and meant, "Please don't tell me anything that requires a response." It wasn't a marriage. It was a schedule. And I didn't fix it. I didn't do anything to fix it. I just let it keep going. You could have said something. I know. I should have. But I didn't think I had the right. You were the one who was doing everything. You were the one who was holding the family together. You were the one who was paying the bills and organizing the holidays and making sure the girls had everything. I was just showing up. I was just existing. And I didn't think I had the right to ask for more. I didn't think I deserved more. I didn't say anything. I let him talk. Then you got sick, he said. And it was like, I don't know how to explain this. It was like I was already gone. I was already out the door in my head. But I couldn't leave. I couldn't leave a sick woman. I couldn't be that man. So I stayed. I stayed and I watched you get smaller, and I watched you lose your hair, and I watched you stop eating, and I watched you stop being the person I married. And instead of being there for you, I resented you. I resented you for taking up all the space. I resented you for needing me. I resented you for being sick and making me feel like I had to stay. Peter, you didn't have to stay. Everyone says that. Everyone says you don't have to stay. But you do. You do have to stay. You have to stay or you're a monster. And I didn't want to be a monster. So I stayed. And then Claire came along and she made me feel like I wasn't a monster. She made me feel like I was someone who deserved to be happy. She made me feel like the man I used to be. And I let myself believe it. I let myself believe I could have two lives. The life where I was the good husband who stayed and the life where I was the man who escaped. The good husband, I said. You thought you were the good husband. I thought I was doing what I was supposed to do. I was coming home. I was paying bills. I was going to your appointments. I was holding your hand. I was doing all the things I was supposed to do. And I was also seeing her. And I told myself that was okay because I was still doing the other things. I told myself it didn't matter because I was still there. You weren't there, I said. You were in the room. You were in the house. You were in the car with me on the way to chemotherapy. But you weren't there. You were somewhere else. I could feel it. I could feel it the whole time. I just didn't know what it was. I thought it was me. I thought it was the cancer. I thought I was too tired or too sick or too boring. I thought I was the reason you had pulled away. And I spent 2 years thinking that. 2 years of chemo and surgeries and all of that, and I spent it thinking I was the one who had failed you. He put his head in his hands. Elena, I didn't know. I didn't know you felt that way. Of course you didn't. You weren't paying attention. You were too busy paying attention to someone else. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know it doesn't matter. I know sorry doesn't fix anything. But I'm sorry. I'm sorry for every single thing. I'm sorry for the appointments. I'm sorry for the nights I came home late. I'm sorry for the times I told you I was tired and went to sleep in another room. I'm sorry for making you feel like you were the problem. You weren't. It was me. It was always me. I was the one who was broken. I was the one who didn't know how to be a husband. I was the one who was too weak to stay and too much of a coward to leave. I let the words hang. They were good words. They were the right words. But they were just words. I had heard words before. I had heard promises. I had heard vows. I had heard a man tell me he would love me until death did us part, and then I had watched him walk out the door to another woman. Where is Claire now? I asked. She left. After the nursing board called. She said she couldn't be with someone who had ruined her career. She said it was my fault. She said she never should have trusted me. Are you still seeing her? No. She won't take my calls. She changed her number. She moved out of the apartment. I don't know where she is. I nodded. I was not surprised. I was not sad. I was not glad. I don't want you back, I said. I want you to know that. I don't want to fix things. I don't want to try again. I don't want to have a conversation about what we could have been. I'm not interested in any of that. I know. I just want to understand one thing. What you told my sister about the affair. You told her before you told me. You trusted her with the truth. You trusted her with the secret. Why? He looked at me. His face did something. It went through a door and came out on the other side. Because I was afraid to tell you. I was afraid you'd fall apart. I was afraid you'd stop treatment. I was afraid you'd give up. And Susan was strong. Susan could handle it. She could handle the truth without breaking. I didn't think you could. You were afraid I'd break. You were afraid the cancer would take me if you told me the truth. You thought I was too fragile. Yes. No. I don't know. I didn't think I was protecting you. I thought I was protecting myself. I thought if I told you and you got worse, it would be my fault. I thought if I told you and you stopped fighting, I would have to live with that. And I didn't want to live with that. So I told someone else. I told someone who wouldn't be hurt by it. I told someone who would keep my secret. I looked at him. I looked at the man who had been my husband. I did not recognize him. I did not want to recognize him. He was a man who had been afraid of the truth. He was a man who had chosen silence over honesty. He was a man who had let me believe I was the weak one. Peter, I said. You are the reason I had to learn how to be alone while I was still married. You left me before you ever left the house. You pulled away. You stopped seeing me. You stopped hearing me. You stopped touching me. You stopped being present. And you did it so gradually that I didn't even notice. I spent 2 years adjusting to your absence while you were still in the room. And when you finally told someone the truth, you didn't tell me. You told my sister. You told the person who you thought could handle it. You didn't think I could handle it. You thought I was too sick. Too broken. Too weak. You thought I was made of glass. And you treated me like I was. You treated me like I was something to be managed. Not loved. Managed. He was crying. Tears were running down his face. He did not wipe them. He let them fall. I was wrong, he said. I was wrong about everything. You're not weak. You're the strongest person I've ever known. I knew it then. I knew it when I walked out the door, and I knew it when I watched you go through treatment, and I knew it when you walked into that funeral and handed your sister a bill. I knew it. I just couldn't admit it. I couldn't admit that you were stronger than me. I couldn't admit that I was the weak one. You were weak, I said. You were weak and you made a choice. You chose someone else. You chose to lie to me. You chose to let me believe I was alone when I wasn't. And I lived with that. I lived with it, and I got better, and I walked out of the hospital, and I came home, and I found out that the person who was supposed to be my partner had been lying to me for 8 months. And I didn't fall apart. I didn't break. I got a lawyer. I filed a complaint. I made a plan. You thought I couldn't handle the truth. But I handled it better than you ever could. He didn't say anything. He just cried. Peter, I'm not angry. I'm not angry about the affair. I'm not angry about the money. I'm not angry about any of it. I'm not angry because I don't have anything left to be angry about. You took that too. You took my anger. You took my sadness. You took my grief. You took all of it and you made it about you. And I don't have room for that anymore. I don't have room for your guilt and your apologies and your tears. I need the space. I need the room. I need to be able to breathe without you taking up all the oxygen. Elena, I don't remember what love felt like. I think I'm supposed to say I do. I think I'm supposed to cry. But I don't. I don't remember. It's been too long. It's been too long since I felt anything for you. And I think that's okay. I think that's what happens when someone leaves you before they actually go. You stop feeling. You stop being able to feel. And then one day you wake up and you realize you haven't missed them because they've been gone for years. He reached across the table. I pulled my hand back. He let his hand rest on the table. He looked at it like it was a stranger's hand. I still love you, he said. No. You love the idea of me. You love the woman you married. You love the woman who made you feel like a good man. But she doesn't exist anymore. She died in the hospital. She died in the treatment room. She died the day you stopped coming home. And I'm not her. I'm someone else. I'm someone you don't know. And I don't want to be known. Not by you. He sat there for a long time. He didn't say anything. He just sat there with his hand on the table and his tears on his face. I stood up. I put money on the table for the coffee. I looked at him for the last time. Peter, I don't hate you. I don't want revenge. I don't want anything from you. I'm not angry. I'm not sad. I'm not anything. You don't get to be forgiven. You get to be forgotten. And I'm going to forget you. I'm going to live my life and I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be better than fine. I'm going to be the woman I was supposed to be before I met you. And you're going to be someone I used to know. I walked out of the coffee shop. I did not look back. I walked to my car. I got in. I sat there for a minute. I thought about the building I had designed. I thought about the windows. I thought about the children's section and the noise in the back and the way the light came through the glass in the afternoon. I thought about going back to work. I thought about drawing again. I thought about making something that would outlast me. I started the car. I drove home to my apartment. The one with the low counters and the cigarette smell and the balcony facing the parking lot. I walked inside. I sat on the floor. I opened my laptop. I started writing an email to the woman who had started her own firm. I wrote about my experience. I wrote about my skills. I wrote about the building I had designed and the windows I had drawn and the way I made spaces that let people breathe. I hit send. Then I closed the laptop. I sat in the quiet. The apartment was small and it smelled like someone else's choices, and it had counters that were too low. But it was mine. It was all mine. I had paid for it with money that no one had stolen. I had chosen it with no one else in mind. I had walked through the door alone and I had closed it behind me and I had not looked back. I sat there for a long time. The sun went down. The room got dark. I did not turn on the lights. I sat in the dark and I breathed. And I was not angry. I was not sad. I was not anything. I was just here. And that was enough.